Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are doing a striped chunky knit blanket. I've done mine in a baby blanket size, which is about 20 by 30 inches. And you can see with this method that you end up with a really pretty braided border on the side. This makes a great gift for a baby shower or just honestly a great gift for yourself. So let's get into it. Let's get started with a slip knot. And we want our slip knot to be about 3 finger widths in size. Next, we're going to start creating more loops to make our foundation chain. So as I make more loops, I want them to be the same size as my initial loop. So I'm aiming for about 3 finger widths in size for each loop. I'm going to make a total of 18 loops. And this is for a baby blanket, so if you are making a baby blanket as well, go ahead and do 18 loops. If you're making a bigger blanket today, I would recommend doing at least 30 loops for an adult size blanket, and then just take your measuring tape and see if you're happy with the size. A good size for an adult size blanket, again, is about 45 to 50 inches.
A new place, a new home, for a while, let me feel alive. Nothing to hold me back, take my time, just enjoy the ride. A new man passing by, life is good, best I've ever felt.
To start our second row, we're actually going to flip our chain onto its back. And we're going to be working into these little bumps right here, into the center of the loops that we've created. I brought you in closer so that we can see we're going to be working into these little bumps right here. Let's make our first loop. We're going to leave this loop out because it's going to be part of our border, so we're not using it right now. The first loop we're going to work into is this little guy right here. So I stick my fingers through the loop and grab my working yarn to pull a loop through. So you can see I've left this loop off to the side, and you might have to adjust things a little bit. I still want this end loop to be 3 finger widths, but now I want this second row of my blanket to be more like 2 or 2.5 finger widths. I'm kind of doing like a loose 2 finger widths. So I've got my first loop there, and now I'll be pulling another loop through this second little bump. So I'm going to keep pulling loops through these little bumps until I get to the end.
Get me up, somewhere new, somewhere I can find myself. Oh, I feel so alive. As I reach out to the sky. I found my way.
I'm almost at the end of my second row, and this is what it's looking like. So let's finish off the second row. I have 2 loops left, and then my end loop here, which again we're going to use as our border. So let's put in 2 more loops. I'm going to lay this down on its side so that all the loops I've made are now laying down and pointing that way. I still have 1 loop left, and this is where I'm going to make another 3 finger loop to continue my border. These loops along here were 3 fingers, and then the loops along our border are going to be 3 fingers as well. So what I'm going to do is just pull my working yarn through make it about 3 fingers, and then pull it up to the side. So you can see it's going to continue my border up the side. Here's what the first 2 rows of our blanket are looking like. You can see that we have the body loops of our blanket, which were about 2 finger widths in size. And then we've got these 2 little end loops here, which are part of our border, or 3 finger widths in size. Before I continue, I need to make sure that I got every loop. So I'm just going to quickly count and make sure that I do in fact have a total of 18 loops. For this blanket, I'm doing a striped pattern. So after my 2 rows of white, I'm going to do 2 rows of this soft green color. Now I'm going to need to change colors, and there's 2 ways to do that. You can tie a knot or you can burn them together. I prefer burning them together because I find it a little bit more seamless. So I'm going to show you that method. I want my green to start after this last loop. So what I'm going to do is pinch where I want my white to end and my green to begin. And I'm going to pull slightly so that I make the loop a little bit smaller. Then I'm going to cut my yarn and remove any of the little fluffy bits that get cut as well. So I'm done with white just for a minute. To actually connect my next color, I'm going to just try to expose the plastic cord that's in the middle. You can feel that there's a string or like a plastic cord in the middle of this yarn. So that's what I'm trying to expose. And then I'm going to do the same thing here on this little bit of yarn that's sticking out. What I'm going to do to connect them is I'm going to light this end of the yarn, and then I'm going to attach it to this end and hold them together until they melt together. You have to move a little bit quickly because we don't want the fibers of the yarn to burn. We want ideally only the center plastic part to burn. So now I'm just going to hold them together for a few seconds while it melts together. And then I'm going to just kind of smush them together once it's cooled down a little bit, and make sure that those 2 plastic cords that I was talking about in the center are smushed together. When you do this, you'll sort of feel what I mean. And I'm just kind of smushing them together so that I've got a nice strong hold. And then the last thing you want to do is a pull test to make sure that it's nice and strong and that it's not going to fall apart on you. Before we get going on our 3rd row, we need to pull this loop back to where it was originally. So I'm going to pull it so that it's a little bit bigger, about 3 finger widths, and we're ready to go on our green row. The first loop that we're going to work into is this one here. You can see that the green loop is coming out of this end loop. So the logical place to go next is this loop here. What we're going to do for this 3rd row, or our first row of green, is pull loops through our existing loops. So I'm going to pull a loop up, and I want it to be approximately 2 finger widths in size, just like these loops here. So I'm going to pull my working yarn through and make a loop.
Against it all, but made it through the day, 'cause I found my way. I found my way. In bad times, I know I'll be okay, 'cause I found my way. 'Cause I found my way.
Now I'm towards the end of my first green row, and I just want to make sure that I didn't miss any loops. So a quick little trick that you can do is just flip your blanket over, and if you look at the back, it'll be pretty obvious if you missed a loop. So that's a trick that I like to do when I'm just double checking that I didn't miss any loops. You can see that we have just our end loop remaining, so we're going to continue our border with another end loop about 3 finger widths in size. And now we're ready to make the 4th row of our blanket, or the 2nd row of green. Just to review, let's remember that our end loops here and this one here are always going to be 3 finger widths in size. And then these loops are always going to be 2 finger widths in size. This is going to help us have a consistent and straight blanket the whole way. Let's go ahead and do the 4th row of our blanket.
'Cause I found my way, my way, my way, my way, my way. 'Cause I found my way, my way, my way, my way, my way. I found my way, I found my way. I was in the dark against it all, but made it through.
Now that we've nearly completed our 4th row, all that we have left is to make the end loop. So let's take our yarn and insert a loop about 3 finger widths in size. Now we're ready to change colors again. So I'm going to use the exact same method. I'm going to pinch where I want my green to end and my white to begin. I'm just going to pull on this loop a little bit so that it's just temporarily smaller. And then I'm going to cut my yarn where I would like it to end. Time to attach my white, and I'm just going to trim off these extra bits that I couldn't pull. I just don't want them to burn and turn black.
I found my way. In bad times, I know I'll be okay. 'Cause I found my way. 'Cause I found my way. 'Cause I found my way, my way, my way.
We're just going to repeat this same process for the rest of the blanket. I'm doing 2 rows of each color, so I'm going to be able to always change my color on the left side of my blanket. But if you're doing an uneven number of rows for each color, you might sometimes be changing color here and sometimes be changing color over here. So just keep that in mind, and let's continue on the rest of our blanket.
A new place, a new home. For a while, let me feel alive. Nothing to hold me back. Take my time, just enjoy the ride. A new man passing by. Life is good, best I've ever felt. Get me up, somewhere new, somewhere I can find myself. Oh, I feel so.
We're nearly all finished. This is what we're looking like. I did 37 rows, and then the last row will end up being 38. The last row is going to be a little bit different than what we've done so far. Remember that this end loop is 3 finger widths in size. Now, because this is part of our border, we're going to also be making loops that are 3 finger widths in size. So let's go into this loop here and make a 3 finger loop. And then what we're gonna do to finish and make the border is take this loop. It's like you have 2 bunny ears. Take the first bunny ear and send it over top of the second bunny ear. Now we're gonna make another loop here, 3 fingers. Take this first bunny ear and send it over the second bunny ear.
As I reach out, reach out, reach out, reach out to the sky. I found my way, I found my way. I was in the dark against it all, but made it through the day, 'cause I found my way. I found my way. In bad times, I know I'll be okay, 'cause I found my way. 'Cause I found my way. 'Cause I found my way, my way, my way, found my way, my way. 'Cause I found my way, my way, my way, found my way, my way.
For our very last loop, I'm going to make another 3-finger loop, put my first bunny ear over my second, and then I'm going to cut my yarn and tie a knot up at the corner.
I found my way, I found my way. I was in the dark against it all, but made it through the day, 'cause I found my way, I found my way. In bad times, I know I'll be okay, 'cause I found my way.
All we have left to do now is to weave in our corners. I have one down here and one at the top. Really, you can do this however you want, but I just kind of shove it in wherever looks good. Maybe shove it down here. So there we have it, our blanket is complete. Please comment any questions below and don't forget to subscribe for later.